Terry Lilly.
Thank you. I was told I need to use one of these gizmos. Most people that know me say, Terry, would you please talk softer? So if I talk too loud on here, just let me know. If it sounds okay, then that's good. I'm really proud to be here, and this is going to be a fun presentation. Primarily because as I look through the room, every human and every person that I see in here is in Kauai for one reason, because they love the ocean. I don't care what you do, what your background is, who you are, big developer, landowner, politician. I have not met one person in 15 years on this island that did not love the ocean, okay? My goal for the meeting tonight is to hopefully encourage everyone here to work together to help with the problems we're having with the ocean, okay? No more fighting, no more wasting time, no more wasting money. Just work together. We've got the knowledge, the science, the education, and the go power to solve some of the problems I'm going to show you tonight. Okay, but before I get into the problems, I need to teach you all a little bit about coral. How many of you have kids? How many of them are younger than 10 years old? Okay, a little older crowd here. Okay, grandkids. I teach a marine science class, by the way, and I have 6-year-olds that can show you the name of every coral we have in Kauai. They can spot a coral disease from about 30 yards away, and they probably know half to 3/4 of the Hawaiian names of every one of the fish. So when I say I have a classroom of people to teach, of kids to teach, my definition of kids is anyone from 3 years old to 103. Seriously, because that's how little we really do know about the ocean. We're all just beginning and we're all just learning. So, how many of you here think you know what coral is? You know, if you people raise your hands, I love it. Okay, is this a piece of coral? Yes, okay. Is this one live coral animal? What do you think this is?
No.
Okay, it's a skeleton. I look at it as an apartment complex. This is called antler coral, and the way I teach my kids about how to recognize antler coral is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Works all the time. They get what antler coral is because it looks like antlers. I'm going to show you some pictures here in a minute, but this is just the calcium carbonate Hotel California apartment complex of about 5,000 little coral polyps. Coral polyps are little animals. They look like a sea anemone, okay? They're soft, and they build up these communities of coral that can grow for thousands of years and get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Coral, by the way, when it's alive, and I'll show you in a minute, has different colors. How many in here have a veggie garden? I do. If you've been snorkeling out here, you might have noticed that this piece of coral right here, I always tell the kids, so they can remember this when I go, this is your favorite food in the entire world. When your mom goes to the grocery store, everyone kills to have this for dinner. You know what the kids usually call it? Broccoli coral. No, it's not. It's cauliflower coral. Because it looks like cauliflower. But this is just the coral skeleton, what you find dead on the beach. In the water, I'm going to show you some pictures that you're going to see this is normally green, yellow, purple, all kinds of beautiful colors. Because coral has a veggie garden that grows in it. Corals grow veggies just like we do. You may have a piece of cauliflower coral here, and this one here is mountain coral, and you may have a mountain coral that's purple or green, and a cauliflower coral that's yellow or red, because they're growing different types of algae inside the coral itself. Now, if you were living off your garden in your yard, and the only thing you had was your garden to eat, and your garden got covered with mud and all your plants died, what would happen? You'd go hungry, right? Have you ever heard about coral bleaching? And I'll show you what that is. That's basically when the coral gets covered with mud or stress and kills the coral's algae garden, and then the coral turns white. If the coral stays that color for very long, it'll kill it. So again, all coral has algae that grows in it. That's why most of the time you don't see coral that grows in really deep water, because it needs sunlight for the algae. Super important. Now, this kind of coral here grows on the bottom, but actually can move around. Now, if you were to sit there in your front yard after a big rain in the grass and see something like that sitting up on a stalk, what would you call it? Mushroom. Mushroom. Hey, we got a smart crowd here. That's why they call this mushroom coral. And that's what it is. And it comes in different colors. This one's always kind of fun. This is the coral that is our most common coral here in Hawaii. It's about 80% of our coral reefs. And it's the one that's being infected and killed by this cyanobacteria that I'm going to show you here. Pictures in a minute. But I always say with the kids with this one, it's pretty easy. When you go into your favorite sushi place and you grab chopsticks, you eat stuff that looks like this. Sushi. Come on, what does it look like? Look close.
Ginger?
Rice.
Rice! You get a prize! If you look at it close, it looks like little grains of rice. It's called rice coral. Okay, Montifera or Montipora, depending on how you want to pronounce the scientific name. This is the one, for some reason, that's getting hammered by the coral disease. Okay, one last coral down here, and then we'll start with some pictures of Honolulu. By the way, all of these corals are from Honolulu Bay. It is illegal to take a live coral out of the water, but if you find a dead coral on the beach, it is legal for you to take that home, just so you know. Now this one is maybe a little bit more different, but this one, when I hold it in my hands, if I broke my knuckles a few times, it still looks like my fingers. Finger coral, absolutely. So it's pretty easy to remember most of the corals here by simply what they look like. Now, let's have some fun here for just a minute, if I can figure it out. And by the way, this fella over here sent me a wonderful email about a month ago. And in that email it said, looking for my glasses. Now that's not what the email said. I'm still looking for my glasses. Okay, thank you. He sends me an email about a month ago and he goes, now Terry, you need to have for your computer this. And I'm looking at the email going, I have no clue what the heck he's talking about. So I sent it to my techie guy back there, and Raj goes, yeah, everything looks cool to me, everything's fine. Well, we get here at 4 o'clock this afternoon, and guess what? Nothing worked. So anyway, I just want to thank this guy for making stuff work. I'm using his computer now, not my computer. So anyway, yeah, computer stuff can drive you crazy. Now, he said to turn it on, open this puppy up. I'm following directions.
I think it may have been off so long there and have to stand by.
Ah, okay, well that's your problem. And he's in his work clothes, by the way. So am I. What's so fun in Hawaii is my work clothes. The only difference between my work clothes and my beach clothes, my work clothes I have expensive thong slippers on, and my other ones are my ones I buy at Walmart for $4. So. Okay, yeah, is it on now? Okay, you can turn off the lights. What I want to show is how important coral is to our ocean. Corals are here for a lot of reasons. They are really the glue that holds the ocean together. If we didn't have any coral, every time we'd have a storm, we'd have waves that'd be washing all the way into downtown Honolulu. So coral is actually the glue that holds together the reef. It also happens to make the waves better, and I'll show you in a minute why, and actually show you a little movie clip why. But coral, one of the most important things about coral is it's the baby farm for almost every creature here in Hawaii. How many of you like me like to eat ahi? Gosh, I love eating ahi. I like eating all kinds of sea creatures because I can go out and catch them and I don't have to pay for them to be flown in from the mainland, and they're good and healthy. Now, if we didn't have coral reefs, it wouldn't have a farm for all the babies to hide in. They get bigger, that move out to sea, that the ahi eat. So almost every single fish that we catch and creature that we come to love here in Hawaii lives because the coral reefs are the baby farm. And if we don't have the coral reefs, there are no baby fish that are going to live. This is what healthy coral looks like. This is out in Anini in 2005. I'm going to show you a timeline here in a few minutes of what's happened to our coral reefs over the last 2 years. We'll talk about maybe what are the causes. We don't know the causes. There's a lot of scientists that are working on it, and someone in here may know something that we don't know. So that's why we're here giving a talk and asking people to work together. See each one of those little dots right there? That's one individual little coral animal called a polyp. Okay. The most disturbing thing that I'm going to show you in a little while is not a sick coral, but what looks like a healthy coral. The USGS, NOAA, the University of Hawaii, and myself now have done over 300 DNA samples of our coral reefs throughout the North Shore of Kauai, and guess what? Not one healthy-looking coral was healthy. Every coral had stress, cracks, fractures, stress hormones, and all kinds of other terrible things in the tissue of the coral polyps. So it's not as much of the disease we're looking at, it's the entire reef is weakened. Our reefs here have something that I just basically label coral AIDS. We don't know where it comes from yet. This is a beautiful rice coral out in Anini, about 5 foot across, that's now dead. Matter of fact, about 3/4 of all these corals are dead today. This is blue rice coral here, out in front of the Honolulu Bay Resort, Charo's area down by Wainiha. This is the coral that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and NOAA is going to list as an endangered species. Guess what? We have one of the biggest colonies of blue rice coral anywhere in the world. And this coral disease is eating it up at lightning speed. These are corals, cup corals. This is on the underside of a cave at 160 feet deep at Nihihau. We have a lot of very rare corals. In my videos that I'll show you here in a minute is where I documented most of this stuff. This is a leather coral. It's actually soft. You can take it and move it with your hands. Okay, this is a coral at nighttime, photosynthesizing, right out on the reef at the bowl at Honolulu. See how nice and green it is? Okay, I call it my broccoli coral because it looks like broccoli. Some of the other ones I'll show you in a minute are purple. This is Wainiha, which is one of the most beautiful coral gardens in all of the island of Kauai. Right in the middle of the bay. I don't know anyone who's ever discovered it. I've been out there diving here now about 100 times by myself before I brought Pam and some of my friends out there. And this is a spot almost no one's ever seen. By the way, in what I'm showing you here, this research project, I'll interrupt myself for just a second. I did this movie here. It's called The World's Guide for Hawaiian Reef Fish. I own the largest reptile zoo anywhere in the world. In California, 15,000 square feet. I had my own television shows. If you've seen The Crocodile Hunter, Steve Irvin, it's a good friend of mine. I supplied a lion's share of the reptiles for his show. I've had over 1 million reptiles, the largest collection, 1,000-fold anywhere in the world. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because reptiles act like corals and fish. Cold-blooded animals act very similar. With my zoo, I learned to captive breed over 30 species, 5 of which were thought to be extinct. About 3/4 of the reptiles you see in the Honolulu Zoo, all the way to the Frankfurt Zoo, to the Tokyo Zoo, to the National Zoo, are from my breeding farm. It's the first one that was ever done. And I'm very, very, very proud of it. And I went all around the world as that. I was also a professional surfer, and I went around the world again as a professional surfer. And then at the same time, because I just love coral reefs and fishing and sharks, I did underwater movies and studied reefs. So I've got movies from all around the world and books. But this one is really my funnest one. It's a World's Guide to Hawaiian Reef Fish. I spent 1,000 hours underwater with this movie. Pamela over there has helped me with about 10 or 15 hours on this movie. She's helped me a ton with the new one I'll show you. But 90% of this movie I did by myself and documented almost every known fish species here, daytime and nighttime. Now, I sold my zoo a few years back in California. They wouldn't let me bring it to Hawaii because they didn't want 5,000 180 snakes crawling around Honolulu, which I wouldn't blame them, so I had to leave it all behind. I spent that money going around the world and around the Hawaiian Islands for 8 years shooting my videos. In the process of doing this is when I found this coral disease. I didn't set out to do it. I don't want to be here tonight talking about coral disease. I don't want to be part of the controversy on what's going on with the reefs and who's killing the corals and so forth and so on. I actually came over here to retire and do an educational series for schools throughout Hawaii. And by the way, this video, I've donated 500 of them to every school in the Hawaiian Islands for free. All of my stuff is nonprofit. Every penny goes into the Coral Reef Research Project. And you can buy these for 20 bucks. They're really cool. But anyway, in doing this movie is when I discovered this weirdo stuff going on our reefs out here, and I'll get to that in just a minute.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah. And we're going to have tons of time for question and answers too when we're done.
The DNA has shown you the disease.
Yes.
If you had been here 10 years or 50 or 100 years ago, what do you think you might have?
Greatest question on the entire planet. And matter of fact, it's such a good question. I'm going to address it in a short movie and show you pictures.
Thank you.
And I'm not kidding, and I'll repeat the question. It is the magical question here. Okay, I have now, since I discovered this disease here in Kauai a year and a half ago with the help of UH and the USGS, I now have been all throughout Hawaii with Pam. We just got back from Maui. We're going all over the place. I've been circumvented the island of Kauai. Guess what? This cyanobacteria disease we are finding everywhere. Everywhere. It is probably an absolutely natural part of the ecosystem here. Just like the common cold is for humans.
So it is not a reason you think?
Something, and I'll show you, and I'm going to show you right up here in a minute. Something has lowered the resistance of the entire North Shore of Kauai to allow this disease to take over. But you know what? If you had asked me that question 6 months ago, we would have said, no, this stuff just occurs on the North Shore of Kauai and nowhere else in the world. By the way, it's its own DNA, it's its own species. This cyanobacteria is known from nowhere else in the world but the North Shore of Kauai. But we're now finding it all over the place. A little bit here, a little bit there. Just like you and I may have a little pimple here, a little dot here, and then all of a sudden we come down with terminal skin cancer. And then all of a sudden we look back and say, well, we should have paid attention to that little dot here and that little pimple over here. But the bottom line is this stuff does appear to be all over the place.
Thank you.
And thank you for the question. It's really a good one. This fish, really quick, is called a pilikoa, a hawkfish, which means sticks on coral, because they hang out on the coral. If you kill the coral, you kill this fish. Just that simple. Here's how the fish hide in the coral. That's the way they keep from getting eaten by other critters. So the coral is actually their home. Moray eel, pui, lives in the coral. All of these fish call coral their home. Here's one of the cauliflower corals. It's kind of purple. It likes to grow rhubarb in the coral. Who knows? This is live of the mushroom corals. We have one of the biggest colonies of these anywhere in the world over in Poipu. And by the way, it is infected now with this disease. This is one of the beautiful rice corals, look like cathedrals out at Anini. In 2006, this coral and 90% of them out there that look like it are now dead completely within the last year and a half. This is a giant mound coral out at Tunnels. This coral easily could be 1,000 years old. Now, a lot of these corals, by the way, these rice corals, they only grow at 4 inches a year. The disease I'm going to show you is killing them at 4 inches a week. So all you got to do is do the math to figure out what's going to happen to our reefs here in the next year or two. I have, if anyone wants to see, and at University of Hawaii, they are analyzing it day in and day out, 180,000 pictures of diseased corals on the North Shore of Kauai. 180,000. So this is not a minor program here. Okay, anyway, these are some of the healthy corals. The healthy antler corals. Here's the healthy rice corals. The mound corals can have all kinds of beautiful sponges growing in them. They're just gorgeous. The artwork underwater here is stunning. This is one of the mound corals out on the bowl at Honolulu. Here's a black coral. Black coral, by the way, is not black underwater. It's red. This is 150 feet deep in a cave in Niihau. Probably about $1 million for the black coral there, and I will never tell anyone where it is. And I got a whole video of it. Antler coral with one of the Hawaiian dacilus hiding in it. Another one of the beautiful creatures, the sea urchins of Vana here that live in the corals. Okay, now, so what I'm going to do here for just a minute to get into the coral history, and then I'll go over a little bit of the politics and a little bit of the problems we're having trying to find out what is causing some of this coral disease. Now, what I do is I have a hard drive underwater camera. This hard drive underwater camera, I go out there and the housing is right here. This was really kind of fun. The first ever guy that I dove with the movie was Jacques Cousteau. The second was Jean-Michel Cousteau, his son, which was really fun. I did a movie here for Jean-Michel Cousteau's Ocean Futures Foundation. It's called Central Coast Kelp Forests. It's in theaters in California. We sell them for 20 bucks. We released this during the Gulf oil spill. Get this one. Shot this entire video off my kayak. 1,000 dives, not one bit of fuel. We edited the video on the beach with a solar unit drinking rum and coke. No kidding. It's recycled cardboard and recycled plastic. I released this right in the middle of the Gulf oil spill and said, BP did not make 1 penny off my video here. Seriously. But Jean-Michel Cousteau uses this in his Ocean Futures Foundation class where he teaches science teachers from around the world in California. Anyway, what Jean-Michel told me, which I really thought was pretty cool, he goes, Terry, he goes, I think you have more underwater high-def footage than anyone in the world. I've got over 3,800 hours underwater with these housings and cameras. One of the reasons I can, Pam over here, her father, Bill Whitman, was one of the first underwater photographers in the world. He actually won an Academy Award with Jacques Cousteau, which is really cool. They made their own housings, and these housings were so big. Jacques Cousteau's housing, by the way, was 385 pounds. It had to be put into the water with a crane. Okay, now, these little high-def cameras that are really good, I can actually sit there and swim out at Pipeline or Sunset or whatever, and sit right in the impact zone with the surf and take video of the waves. So it's the modern technology that's allowing now us to be able to document this. The place that changes the fast on the planet is always what's called the intergrade zone. Okay, the intergrade zone is in between the forest and the plain. Okay, in between the mountains and the desert, in between the beach and the reef. It's where all the activity is, where it's always changing. The fastest changing place in the world is always going to be within 50 yards of the coastline, especially where there's surf. Those are the places that no one's ever studied, not because they didn't want to, that had nothing to do with it. They just didn't have these little dinky cameras to go out and do it. So now we do. So now we get to study this cool area that other people don't get to study, or haven't got to study in the past. Okay, this is what we call the white coral disease. Cyanobacteria, it's this white color. It's a bacteria, actually, get this one, it's 3 different bacteria that eat the coral polyps. They actually eat the coral polyps. What we did last summer, the first time ever with some grad students, is went out and measured how fast it ate the coral. We thought it would eat the coral maybe at 1 inch every month. It turned out it ate the coral at 6 to 8 inches a week. Okay, now get this one. This cyanobacteria produces its own antibiotic. The antibiotic goes out on the coral and kills all the other bacteria on the coral, so it gets to eat it all on its own. Cyanobacteria, I have a report to show you here, produces a neurotoxin that is deadly to people. Just that simple. Now, we don't know yet. We have a whole wing with the University of Hawaii, an entire wing as big as this building where we're growing Kauai corals right now. And we're growing this cyanobacteria in the lab trying to figure out how this works. What we did find out here in Kauai, this is bizarre as can be, but there are 3 bacteria working in unison to eat the corals here on the North Shore of Kauai. We can't even in the lab duplicate that. When we try to, the bacteria eat each other. One of them even chases the other bacteria out of the whole beaker. It's really amazing what's going on here. We just do not know yet.
So it means the algae that they're consuming that runs in a symbiotic relationship with the coral reefs, the bacteria in unison are working in a symbiotic relationship that are devastating the reefs in their own.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know if you're exactly right, but you're exactly right that there is some kind of working relationship here going in the ocean here with the corals, with the algae, and with these 3 different bacteria. And we have a NOAA boat and the best scientific crew in the entire world coming over here in mid-May that are going to be camped outside here with me studying this full time. So at the end, I'll tell you about all the good stuff going on. How it all works right now, we're having a heck of a time figuring it out. Okay, so this is just simply Anini. So these are just some of the white coral diseases at Anini that over this 1 month, or this 1 week that I went out with my grad students and we measured each individual coral. Okay, then what we did, this is the part that's so profound, and I'll show you a bigger picture up here on the ones that Brad sent over to us. So this is another part of Anini. White coral disease on that coral. I'm not going to go through a million pictures. But these are the different diseases, the different white coral diseases. Every one of these, we measured over 3,800 corals last summer. And we were so devastated at the rate that it killed because when we would go back, only because of the lack of time, I'd have 60 different dive sites measuring this disease. 60 along the North Shore. Matter of fact, I'll point that out here in just a second. Out of those 60, 99% of all of the corals that we took video of in August, by October or November, were 100% dead.
Oh, wow.
And we got every one of this on video. And right now, the University of Hawaii has a grad student that's going to be living here full-time in about 30 days, and she's going over 180,000 pictures of mine and over 1,000 hours of video, putting a timeline together on this disease. Again, it has not been found anywhere in the world similar to this. Now, out at Charos, we talked about that. The blue rice coral getting eaten by the white coral disease. This is the rice coral that they want to put on the endangered species list. Okay, that was really a mind blower. A clean reef out there. It didn't look like it should have any disease. All dead. You can see just a little bit of life left. So it went out to Charos. Then went down the coastline here. So we went to Hanalei. Now out of Hanalei, found the coral disease. Out at Hanalei, kills thousands of corals out there. By the way, this disease was first noted in Hanalei in 2005. I have video now going back at Tunnels Reef back to 2003 and seeing it in the video. So once again, what we're doing is going through, and then I'm going to show you why I'm showing you these pictures here and tie it together here in a minute. So this is out at Middles in the bay, on the left side of the bay, more towards Waikoko. So here's the disease there. This is in August, showing how fast that it grows. Okay? There's the disease there. Every time we're out in the water, then we also document all the fish, like this cool leaf scorpion fish. And you'll see all of these in my fish movie. So anyway, 100 miles an hour, we're going up and down the coastline here because we wanted to cover the entire coastline in a matter of a month. Because we really needed to know, is this occurring right here because of something coming out of the Honolulu River? Or is it occurring all over the coastline at the same time? Well, we found out within 60 days it's occurring all over the coastline at the same time. So that eliminated someone digging up the Honolulu River and putting a toxin out in the water, let's say. Now that causes other problems I'll show you in a minute. But it didn't cause this coral disease. Something is causing it, and I'm going to show you some bigger pictures. So we went all the way up to Pila'a. Now here, this is Pila'a where no one goes. Out in front of Pfluger's property, the reef out there is very pristine. Here we do. White coral disease all over the place. There is so much reef action at Pila'a, and there's so much wave movement there that we had to tie ourselves to the corals to get underwater video or we'd be washed out to sea. Corals do really well when there's a lot of movement of salt water. Why is this coral disease at Pila'a? Yeah?
Cyanobacteria typically are in various colors and they're photosynthesizing.
Yes.
Why is it shown to be so white?
Well, that's a great question, and at first it confused the heck out of us. Let me, here, I'll show you a great one here. Now, I went back at nighttime and did almost every single one of these diseases at nighttime. And at nighttime, because that's when they're actually doing their photosynthetic activity, the disease itself is being like a lot brighter. And then you're seeing all this black stuff around the edge. Yeah, go ahead. Go.
Well, the cyanobacteria photosynthesize because of the sunlight. So do you have any microphotographs of what you're calling a disease?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We have, in the research lab at UH, they have DNA and ongoing videography and microbiology studies of this more than probably anything known on the planet. 3 different bacteria working together here. One is a cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria is weird stuff because it's like part blue-green algae and part bacteria. And at nighttime it photosynthesizes. It does. I'm not the microbiologist, by the way. And I can show you and give you very, very updated detail from the head of microbiology, Sean Callahan, at University of Hawaii in charge of this study, and Dr. Greta Abbey. And really good friend of mine who is working with me every day on this, Dr. Terry Work. He's the head of the infectious disease department for the USGS. And now Bernardo, who's the head of the coral disease department for NOAA, is my legal partner on the project. So if you have more biological questions, I'm not the one to ask, but boy, I got some reports. I'll email it to you in 2 seconds. Yeah.
One more question. Do you have microphotographs with you that you could show to me now?
No, the only photographs I have is over and over and over with my high-def camera with this of each individual infection. See what I mean? Because that's the only capability that I have and the only time that I have. And I wish I had more time and capability. When NOAA gets here, then we will be doing a lot more of these detailed studies like you just got done talking about. Okay, let me just do a couple quick things here, and then I want to show you what we're doing here. And what Pam's been documenting is we've even been documenting every video we're taking of the coral disease. We even talk to NOAA and do crazy things like have them lock in on a satellite. By the way, that camera over there, my high-def camera, has every frame, time, date, and GPS. So we can call up NOAA and have them lock in on a satellite, and they can take video in space of us underwater taking these pictures. That's how high-tech this is and how real this stuff is. And so we have Pam's like an amazing still photographer, so what she does is she goes out and takes pictures of me and the grad students here, documenting each one of the individual coral diseases, so we can document this stuff absolutely to the T all the way through. Now, let me just show you something really quick up on the pictures here that Brad at Nani Gallery over in Princeville donated these beautiful prints for me to use in all of the lectures. And he's got some of these are up, if you'll see them, they're actually up for sale in Foodland up on the wall. Okay, I just want to take you on a little quick tour here because it blew all of us away at first. And then again, I'll go a little bit more into the history of where we're going here. Now, Tunnels Reef right here. Tunnels is an ancient volcano. This is the caldera of the volcano. This is the edge of the volcano. Tunnels, it's called tunnels because all the tunnels that go through the reefs right here, well, they go all the way up into Mount Waialeale and all the way up into the mountains here. There are lava tubes that run from the top of the mountains, underneath the town, underneath Haina, all the way out onto the reef at Tunnels. When you scuba dive, and by the way, this picture here, every square inch of this picture, you can take that GPS, or that, and I've got an underwater video I can show you of each individual GPS. I've got over 300 hours documenting every square inch of every one of these pictures. Now, the lava tubes coming down here, the first place I found this disease infection 3 years ago was on the inside ledge here and right in here. It dissipates out here, but then it reoccurs again right over here, and there's a little pocket of it over there. Okay, what we're finding out is, and this is just recent, even USGS, none of these people have this data yet because I just got done doing it. What we find out is when we have our rains, what I'm doing is tracking where the lava tubes are going under the land and where they percolate out on the reef. It's really easy to find the lava tubes because when you're scuba diving, the water's clear, okay? Then all of a sudden it gets all wavy and you get disoriented underwater. That's the fresh water percolating up. And also you have a temperature of about a 10 degrees drop in temperature. So these lava tubes, all of us scuba divers know where they are. Well, I'm starting to find out that all along the whole coastline, the whole friggin' coastline from Ke'e to Pila'a, all at the same time, this stuff breaks out. So it's not going, this disease isn't traveling from Tunnels against the current all the way up to Pila'a. It can't happen that quickly, there's no way. And it would be going uphill, like upstream. Now, you take Nini right here. Nini's one of the worst places. Each one of these holes in the reef is a natural spring. Each one of these holes in the reef is fresh water coming from lava tubes coming underneath Princeville out into the ocean. That's how they got formed. You go down in these, I got every one, again, I've got every square inch of this videoed in high-def video. You can say, that GPS point right there, I can show you right on the computer. Now, the hot spot for these coral diseases, this white coral disease, is at the mouth of all of these lava tubes. Actually, right here, right out there is the one, I'll tell you in a minute, but 10 days ago or 12 days ago, I had a massive heart attack after diving for 3 hours, video documenting the coral disease right there. And how I got into shore and lived, I haven't quite figured out yet, but I did, so that was cool. I mean, what the heck, you know? Sometimes you can't explain things. Hanalei, interesting enough. Hanalei has a bunch of junk coming out of the river, and I'm going to show you some of that in just a minute here. But the interesting about Hanalei, we've had very little of this coral disease in Hanalei here. Except for one spot right out here at Summers. Sure enough, it happens to be a lava tube. What we're taking right now is with NOAA and USGS, we're taking the entire coastline and doing that Lexar sonar stuff that's going down deep in the earth, and then it's like side scan sonar. It can go down, you can turn it sideways. Well, we're going to be studying the whole coastline and finding every lava tube on the coastline and seeing if that correlates with the major outbreak of this coral disease. Now, if it does, we don't know that that's the truth. We don't know. But if it does, that may help us tell a little bit as to what's causing this disease to happen. Is it runoff from the land? Is it not runoff from the land? I don't know. And let me show you just a couple more pictures here. And then I'll get into a little bit of the potential causes, and then we'll just open it up for questions. And I'll give you a little bit of history too. Okay, so what we did is we went out with the University of Hawaii and tried to figure out if we can stop this disease, if we can stop it in its tracks. You know what we found out? We can. What we did is we went out at Anini, we took areas that had the coral disease, we put a marine epoxy barrier below the disease, right here, marked it with a yellow tag, to see if the cyanobacteria would grow underneath the disease. And what we did is we went out and we tagged right here underwater about 30 different corals. It took us 3 days, about 8 hours in the water every day. And so we've got all of these corals marked. See the marine epoxy here? And the coral disease down here. Every other coral, by the way, we did as a control so we could see how fast the disease grew. And let me see, I'm looking for another gallery here. Coral study, here we go. So, what we did is I'll show you two different ones. Now, this is the marine epoxy. This is the coral disease. There's more of the coral disease. So we wanted to see if it could go through this layer of epoxy and this layer of epoxy. Then we did ones like this, where we had coral disease here, coral disease there, and see if it would spread underneath the different layers of epoxy. Then we had some here where it's a control, where we put the epoxy here and just let the disease spread so we could measure it. Now what I did is every week for about 3 months is I went back to each one of these sites and took video. And what we found out, once again, is that the coral disease, we could stop it by this marine epoxy, which is really cool. This marine epoxy actually gets grown over by healthy coral down the road. You don't even know it's there. And then the areas that were the control sites, like through here, continued to kill the entire coral. So we found out that doing this marine epoxy is really a good thing, and we could control this coral disease. The problem is when I first reported this coral disease 2 years ago, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that in a minute, when I first reported it, I knew of about 100 infections. Now there's probably well over 1 million. So it's not likely we're going to get out there with 1 million biologists laying marine epoxy to kill this stuff. So we need to find out what in the world is causing it. But if this stuff was to show up in some other part of Hawaii, then yes, we could probably control it for the time being. 2 more pictures here, and then we'll go just a teeny bit into possible causes. I just want to show you this because this was one of the most beautiful corals right at the boat ramp at Anini. Tons of fish, Hawaiian Dacellus, all these fish live there. This is a coral disease, right there. Okay, this is 5 days later. That's it. That's how fast that this stuff kills the corals. It's unreal. And we'll watch a short movie. Actually, let's see, what time do we, 6:51. How long do we have to go to?
7:30.
Okay, good. Because I just want to make sure now enough time for questions. Let me just show you a short movie because it's also affecting the turtles and the fish and other critters. And then we'll go into a little bit of what we can do about it and what's been done about it. And if this needs to be louder, it can. That's a Toby fish.
Hello, my name is Terry Lilly, and I'm a marine biologist in Hawaii, and I live on the island of Hawaii. I've been doing scuba diving and underwater movies and high-def video of our reefs here in the Hawaiian Islands for the last 15 years. I have over 1,000 hours underwater studying our beautiful coral reefs and the fish that live here, along with all the other marine life from the sea turtles to the whales. Our reefs in Kauai have been healthy for a long time. We've had very few problems until recently with our coral reefs. Most people know that coral reefs are an indicator of the health of the ocean. Like these little Toby fish that live in and out of this rice coral, if the rice coral was to die, the Toby fish would not have a place to live. The coral is the rookery and where all the baby fish in marine life live close to shore. Coral has algae that grows in each one of the little coral polyps. That's what gives it its color when it's underwater. This beautiful fish, the raccoon butterfly fish, eats the coral polyps. If this coral was to die, the butterfly fish would die. What is incredibly important worldwide due to rising sea levels, pollution, changing in our global climate, the coral reefs are getting stressed. They're starting to suffer different diseases, coral bleaching, and many other problems. Biologists all around the world are studying this. We know that over the next 10 to 15 years, our near-shore coral reefs are going to suffer a lot of problems. So we need to be better stewards and take even better care of these problems. The coral not only has the coral polyps that live in the fish, but the turtles and people also benefit by coral reefs. Coral bleaching is a problem that's occurred all over the planet and is a pretty well-known and studied scientific fact. Sometimes you have changes in temperature of the water, pollution in the water, or even runoff or sediment or mud coming out of rivers that coats the coral for a temporary period of time. This kills the algae that grows within the coral. The coral then turns pure white, and they call this coral bleaching. As long as the condition doesn't last longer than about a month, the coral will grow new algae and be back to normal and healthy. In Kauai, over the past 6 months, we've had a different problem. We've had a new coral disease that's come in, and it's killing a lion's share of our reefs here in Kauai. These folks here are scientists from the University of Hawaii and the USGS Infectious Disease Department, and they've been out monitoring the reefs here along with me and studying this new massive coral disease. This coral disease is taking over corals within the entire coastline of the island of Kauai at over 2 to 3 inches a week per individual coral. We have thousands of infections. It's called a white coral disease, and it's being studied at the top levels at the University of Hawaii. Here you can see myself and our assistants are actually out there measuring this coral disease to see how fast it's spreading throughout the island of Kauai. So far, no one has ever seen a coral disease. This is an infectious bacteria that actually eats a coral. Notice this clip here. Just look at these 2 pictures that one of my grad students is in, measuring this white coral disease, and you can see how fast that it has grown within a 2 to 3 week period of time. Never before have we seen any type coral disease grow this quickly. You can see on the outside edge of what looks like white battery acid on the coral here, the outside edge is gray, and that's a fungus, we think, that's growing along with the cyanobacteria. The yellow material here is the dead coral. The brown material is the healthy live coral. And if you can notice, this bacteria spreads across the coral at lightning speed. Here it's actually consuming the coral polyps that are sloughing off into the water column. This little round coral right here took 20 to 30 years to grow. But this new coral disease is killing these corals at 1 inch a week. So we have thousands upon thousands of corals that are dying right now, today, right now in Kauai, that have lived here for hundreds of years, and they're dying at lightning speed. We go out and we measure the disease that's killing these corals week in and week out. And then we can actually show and track how this disease is killing the corals and how fast it's killing the corals. This whole problem has made coral biologists worldwide incredibly concerned. Once again, these coral reefs take 20, 40, 100 to 200 years to grow, and they're being killed by this infectious bacteria at more than 1 inch a week per coral. Here's some of my grad students who are out actually measuring this disease and seeing how fast it's killing the reefs from Anini Beach in Kauai, all the way to tunnels, all the way across the island to Ahukini. This coral disease is spreading out of control. I've been studying the reefs here in the Hawaiian Islands and all over the world now for over 40 years. I have many, many, many movies about coral reefs coming up and being out on the marketplace in an educational series. I've never seen anything like this before. That fish that you just saw is actually infected and dying with this disease because it eats some of the coral polyps. We are really frightened as biologists at anything that is spread through a reef system this quickly. These little toby fish eat the polyps and they're becoming infected. At this point in time, the University of Hawaii and the USGS Infectious Disease Department is trying to figure out if this new deadly disease is harmful to humans. I sincerely hope that it isn't, but we will find out within the next 30 to 60 days. But one thing, it is incredibly harmful to the reef creatures. At the current rate, right now, this disease is spreading, of which we measure every week to document every inch of this spreading disease. We would lose most of our coral reefs here in Kauai within the next 10 years. That is incredibly alarming. We don't know where else in the world that this stuff occurs, but they have found it in Kaneohe Bay, in Oahu, and Dr. Greta Abbey at University of Manoa described this new bacteria and put out an alert about a year ago to biologists worldwide to watch out for it. Because of the nature of this bacteria, it can destroy an entire reef system in a matter of months. This is unheard of for coral biology anywhere in the world. We're super concerned that this outbreak of this disease may be caused by something that is changing the ocean in the entire island of Kauai. Within 2 months, this disease went from having 20, 100, 200 infections along the north shore of Kauai that I've been monitoring. Not a lot, not enough to have too much of an alarm. Within the last 2 months, this disease now is spread to literally hundreds of thousands of corals. We don't know what to do about it yet. We're studying it in the lab, and we're documenting it every single day of the week. My main concern is if we lose our coral reefs in Kauai, it's not only going to affect the marine life, the turtles, the dolphins, the whales, the sea urchins, it's going to affect you and I. I'm not right now too concerned about what's going to happen to our grandkids in 100 years from now. I'm not too concerned about whether or not they're going to see a coral reef in 100 years from now. I'm extremely concerned about whether or not you, on your next trip back to Kauai in 10 years from now, will be able to see a coral reef. We need a lot more money, time, personnel, and equipment to be involved in this study, and we need to be extremely aggressive about this study. If you have a concern with what you saw in this video, like I do, and the University of Hawaii does, and many other groups and agencies throughout the United States of America, then please go to our nonprofit page and donate some money to help us out with this project. It is a tax write-off, and I will update you every single week with new video and pictures to show how...
Okay, if you could turn on the lights for just a second, and let's get into some serious hardcore stuff. I guess I need to talk to this one again. Okay. If I don't trip over the coral. Most people that know me is the happiest person on the planet. And I actually am. I don't know what negative it is, and I don't live in a negative world. Nature doesn't live in a negative world. What happened yesterday has basically no meaning to me whatsoever. And I'm the first one that's going to say I've made a lot of mistakes, and a lot of other people have made a lot of mistakes. So I don't want to go into that in too much detail. But I am going to make a couple points here tonight that have never been made publicly here in Kauai, and it's about time they made publicly. Okay. The reason is not to make anyone mad or pissed off, but is simply to hopefully help cause people to work together. But how many people of you in the last 10 days have come to within 99.9% of dying? Yeah, a lot of hands out there. Sometimes when you're almost dead, you get pissed off. Okay, that happens. And I just want to say a couple things, then I'm going to go in and show you a picture program that pretty much got me killed. Thank goodness it didn't. And it won't harm any of you by watching it, I guarantee you, because they'll come after me and not you. When I first came out with this coral disease program, I sent it to every politician on the island of Kauai. There's a box right down there with about 500 emails. These emails started in 11/28/2009. These emails are of pictures of our corals here being covered with mud, dying and diseased. And I sent those emails because this is for public notice. We're actually going to make a movie for the Discovery Channel on this. It's going to be called How to Kill a Bay. Okay? These emails went to Gary Hoosier. They went to our mayor. They went to Mel Raposo. They went to Wendy Wilsey from the EPA, Don Pulowski from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Gary Uinton from the Department of Health, Gary Gill from the Department of Health, Maka'ala here from the River Hui, Carl Berg from Surfrider, and you can look at the carbon copies of all of these emails. They also went to the USGS, to NOAA, and the University of Hawaii, and lots and lots and lots and lots of other politicians. Now, I have a good friend of mine that says, Terry goes, the one thing I like about you, you are a good scientist. You know what a good scientist is? A good observer. Just that simple. One of the best scientists, honestly, I probably know in this entire room is Patrick Ching right here. No kidding. You know why I say that? Because to paint these incredibly beautiful pictures that Patrick paints, you have to be a good scientist. You have to be a good observer. Having a degree in science and a PhD, which means piled higher than deeper, okay? My best friends are PhDs. Okay, just to lay things to rest. I'm just going to lay them to rest because in the news and in the media, I have had some very cockamamie, stupid-ass people that are running around here saying, I don't have the credibility to study reefs. Okay, this is called a degree in biological sciences. I talked to Barack Obama. He compares it to his birth certificate. So I'm putting it out here now. I actually have talked to Barack Obama about this because his kids were going to go swimming at Kaneohe Bay, and I did find the disease at Kaneohe Bay right before his kids were ready to go out there. Okay, I have a degree in biological sciences. That's actually credentials. I also have 5,000 hours underwater, and I have a resume over here that I've done work for the Discovery Channel, for National Geographic, for TV shows worldwide, and about 5,000 other things that no one here on Kauai has ever done. I'm not saying this egotistically. Please understand me. I'm just trying to lay problems to rest so we can go forward. So anyone can look at these puppies if they want to. Number two, one of my proudest things at my zoo, I was elected by the U.S. Congress to be one of the only credentialed person in the United States of America to be certified to teach the Endangered Species Act to politicians. I was taught by, and you can see here, and I have all of these, including I've been to every Supreme Court hearing in the last 20 years. I've testified in Congress. This is signed by the head of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and Craig Potter, who wrote the Endangered Species Act, the guy that wrote it in 1972. I know this law, I'm qualified to teach this law, and my clients were Monsanto, Syngenta, the U.S. Army, AT&T, and I can give you about 100 other clients that had to come to my class to be certified before they could go out into the field to touch an endangered species. Well, guess what? In the island of Kauai here, we have more endangered species per square foot than anywhere in the United States of America. So, we have a lot of power here from the people. Okay, it only costs $125 for any individual human to file a civil complaint against any company or government agency under the Endangered Species Act to halt any project until the right scientific studies are done. If anyone would like to see the Honolulu Ridge project be done correctly, that can be stopped at any time under the Endangered Species Act. And I sat there and talked with Michelle Swartman in her office in Honolulu for 2 hours about that. And I know how to do that. I also gave this presentation here that you're going to see in just a minute, and I'm going to do it really quick, to the head of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Don Pulowski, head of the National Reserve, the head of NOAA Law Enforcement, Taki Thompson, and a dozen other, William Ayala, the head of the DLNR, and our illustrious governor. I've given these talks in Honolulu to all of these folks about this coral disease, and this is all documented and recorded. So they know every bit about it. And I'm not going to do it now because it can take some time. This county in this area has done horrific things against the environment. And I think we all need to stand up and put our feet down and say, we're not going to allow it to happen anymore. And I'll show you a quick program here. And again, this is a whole other program, and I don't want to get into the politics. I'll keep to the positive side, the best that I possibly can. But our illustrious mayor has known about this coral disease for 2 years. I've talked to him in person. I've shown it to him. I've shown it to the head of the DLNR. I've shown it to Gary Gill. I've shown it to every one of these people. And guess what? Not one person, not one government agent has offered to spend 1 penny to even study this, even though NOAA, the USGS, the University of Hawaii have openly pleaded for the funds to study this project. I spent $120,000 of my own money, everything you see here, and we sell beautiful coffee table books, pictures, and videos, and that's what supports this coral disease project. Isn't that crazy? Most third world countries spend more money on their ocean than the island of Kauai. Now, just to show you one simple thing, the mayor purchased $6 million worth of property on the Honolulu River that was my Marine Research Center and closed it down. These are pictures here of a $250,000 wash-down system, the best one in the island of Hawaii, actually the only one in the island of Hawaii, that washes down every boat that comes out of the water at Honolulu, every bit of our dive gear, all of our kayaks, and goes through a sand filter cleaning system so only pure water goes back into the Honolulu River. Well, the mayor bought this property for $6 million and closed it down so no one can use it. I can't use the boat washdown system. The fire department can't use the boat washdown system. And NOAA coming over here can't use the boat washdown system. Okay, it's like, it's like all you can do is laugh. I don't know what else to say. All you can do is laugh. A local nonprofit here got paid $1.4 million, and they know who they are, in this room here to study our coral reefs. $1.4 million. They didn't spend the $1.4 million on studying the coral reefs. Matter of fact, I have emails here threatening me, telling me to get off the island when I started studying the coral reefs, saying I didn't have permission from the gods to study the coral reefs, saying that I had no credentials to study the coral reefs. So what I'm trying to say is we're being misled here as the people on what's going on in our environment. So the purpose of the talk here is not to go backwards, but it's to go forwards and fix the problems and work together. And
ask another question.
yeah.
Very early in your talk, and I'm not familiar with reefs, that's not my area. I'm an astronomer by profession.
Yeah.
But you indicated that the corals hold the island together. They protect the island against being washed away.
Yeah.
Now, maybe it would be worthwhile to think of a strategy what the consequences of that disease are. Okay, corals, some people are interested in them, most are little about it to have any interest. If you could make the case that there would be serious deterioration of our shorelines, that might get more traction.
You got it, Brad. Let me show it right now.
Terry,
I just paid him to lead into it. No.
if you allow me room for questions, you might want to think about finishing up.
Okay. I'm going to do this really quick because I got to do this, and then let's do some questions because this is really, really, really important. And a lot of this stuff you can ask me about later, and I'm available 24 hours around the clock to go over all this because this is my life and my livelihood. 100%. Now, I have all of these reports from the USGS on the coral reef problems here and what they found with all of the DNA testing in our work. So these are all available to everybody here. I started to start out with let's see. I started talking about this entire project with the DLNR 2 years ago. They told me to go to the Department of Health. The Department of Health told me to go to the EPA. The EPA told me to go to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service told me to go to the Army Corps of Engineers. The Army Corps of Engineers told me to go to 2 of the local nonprofits. The local nonprofit told me to get off the island as fast as I possibly could, and that I had no credentials to even be in the water to study any of this stuff. And then now, I just got this letter back from the governor saying, okay, I've turned this whole thing back over to the DLNR. The very start where we started 2 years ago. So what a joke. Okay, now what happens here? I'm just going to show you a couple more. And then I won't even get into the GMO stuff very well. But this is the kind of mud that's in the bay right now that's smothering the corals. That's a picture of me with the coral smothered in mud. Okay, we're going to go down to, there's all kinds of digging going on right now on a regular basis in the Honolulu River. The digging in the Hanalei River releases all kinds of mud out into the bay. There's one of the canals on the Hanalei River, okay? And you'll see here in just a minute, that's one of the canals on the Hanalei River. And again, I'm going to go through this really super fast because we can do a lot of this later. Now, you're going to see here, this is some of the mud that's out in the bay in Hanalei. This mud is coming out of the river. The river has an ability to, and it's covering up the corals that are killing the corals. And I'm trying to get down to a picture here. The mud in the river and in the Hanalei Bay. Okay, here, we're going to start right here. This is a picture of Hanalei from one of my aerial pictures here. This is the wetland area of Hanalei on the inland side of the river. You have people that have dug all these deep canals, built these fancy homes, dug all these deep channels and all of that to dry out the wetland. The wetland here in the United States of America is illegal to build in or dig in. But we're not part of the United States of America here yet. I hope we will be someday. Now, what happens is several private landowners have dug these giant canals, and in those canals, they've dried out the wetland. They have built all kinds of fancy things right in the middle of the wetland, all kinds of fancy homes right in the middle of the wetland. I've documented every single bit of this stuff, all the way out to their tractors in the wetland digging, widening all of these canals through here, discharging the mud out to sea, widening the canals here, discharging the mud out to sea, killing the corals. Old aerial pictures of what it used to look like on the Hanalei River, and then what it looks like today on the Hanalei River. Now, you have people that are building all kinds of luxury homes right above the river, dumping all their stuff down into the river. You have another guy that has buffalo on his property. This used to be rice fields. He dug big, deep canals all the way through this entire area to dry it out. All of this stuff is a violation of the Endangered Species Act. What it does is it causes you and me to get all kinds of skin infections in the water. It causes the fish to get sick. It causes the turtles to get tumors. All of this stuff is out at Hanalei Bay. These are just pictures of my knees and all this stuff. Now, this is even the small part, because when I first came out with this, instead of just showing blind turtles like this, I got threatened by all kinds of emails that I had to turn over to the FBI and the police department and the prosecuting attorney's office. After that didn't work, the guy at Hanalei Surf Company broke my arm on my wrist all the way down through the middle, massive internal bleeding on my left side. This guy out of the Hanalei Surf Company, this is honest to God fact, said openly in court that he's been running a smear campaign for a year, telling everybody in the community that all of this sick coral stuff is false and untrue.
Why would he do that?
Well, it's for the police to understand and the public to maybe to find out. Maybe people are getting paid, maybe not. Okay, the bottom line is that potentially led to massive blood clot in my heart, and I got medevac to Oahu 10 days ago with a massive heart attack after studying the coral out in the water for 3 months, and should have died, and I didn't die, and so I'm here tonight. Yeah. And I actually feel like the Energizer Bunny now, because I got 2 stents in my heart and everything is fine. Now, there's one other thing that I just got to say here, and I know I'm going to get shit for it in every direction, but I'm going to say it anyway. Okay, we have a problem in the upper Hanalei River. People have re-engineered the river. One of them is a former representative of our government here named Hermina Merida. She built a bed and breakfast up there. We were just up taking movies of it, and there was $760,000 engineering report done on this subject. Okay. She built right on the swamp. Her building report says swamp, right where she built. I got it sitting right here. Now, the river is taking back over her bed and breakfast and pumping 11,000 tons of mud out into the Honolulu River and Bay right now. That's why the river mouth is so closed up. That's why the bay is so muddy. That's why we get all of these diseases in the water. Now, the governor gave her $1.4 million to try to clean up her act. The problem is her place is in the middle of critical habitat for 5 endangered birds, and it needs a habitat conservation plan under the law to even try to clean up her act. So the bottom line is, in Kauai, if you're a politician, you can absolutely ignore environmental laws. Okay. I mean, I know this is a short version of all of this stuff, and then we'll open it for questions, because I know we got a jam. We have up on our webpage, there's some business cards here, Underwater to Web. Beautiful coffee table books, t-shirts, coffee mugs, all the videos are for sale. We've got a new video called Under the Surf video that's going to be featured in Honolulu on April 1st in some of the biggest theaters over there. Every dime of all of that stuff goes to the coral reef study because our government at this point in time won't pay 1 penny towards it. So please visit our web. If anything here, from pictures to pillows, you have an interest in, it's all for sale. And again, all of it, I'm not into product sales, but this is how we support our research at this point in time. And I know we went through like a whole ton of stuff all at one time, so any questions? Okay, we'll start just in a minute.
So just in a nutshell, I realize there's still so much research going on. What do you think is the cause of this?
Oh, that's a great.
We covered so much stuff.
There's only one thing that I didn't cover. In order to ruin the resistance of the entire coastline of Kauai at the same time, we only have 2 theories right now. Atrazine that comes from the GMO products, because everybody uses them on the coast, and every time it rains, especially in the farmland areas, it kills the disease spreads. Atrazine has been shown in northern Australia and Queensland running off from the cane fields to kill coral reefs. So the GMO products that they produce that have atrazine are one of the things that are a high priority. We're going to have a high-tech NOAA boat out here doing atrazine tests on all of the reefs to test America in Irvine, California. The other one is the Navy is doing underwater sonic microwave blasting out of submarines here. I've documented underwater. I didn't have time to show you, but I got Scripps Institute over here doing sonic testing underwater on the whole reef. But whatever is causing the problem here is unilaterally causing along the whole North Shore at the same time. So it's really big, whatever it may be. And you know what? We may be totally wrong. Maybe something completely different. But the bottom line is we've got NOAA and USGS and UH in a month converging here with the top scientists in the world working with me on testing. It's going to be the most highly tested stretch coastline in the United States of America. And we don't know at this point in time what's causing. Yeah?
Have you found any algae strains that show resistance to redistribution for the cyanobacteria eating away at all?
Great friggin' question. We haven't even got anywhere close to that far, and we would love to do that. We only found out recently how the 3 bacteria are working together to kill the coral in the lab. So, yeah, great question, and that's something I hope maybe in a year you and I will be sitting here talking about the results. But, yeah, big time. Yeah.
Do you think it's safe or unsafe to snorkel regularly in a place like Anini now?
You know what? And I really have to say this honestly, truthfully. I snorkel out here every single day of my life, and other than having a heart attack and a broken arm, broken back, and broken neck, I'm fine. You know what? We have not, I don't want to scare anybody, microbiology lab at the University of Hawaii has not, N-O-T, okay, shown any link to this cyanobacteria floating in the water that's harmed humans. So as of yet, we have not seen anything that could make it a dangerous situation for humans. Doesn't mean that that may not happen.
Tell us.
Yeah. Yeah, great.
Practically speaking, I surf at the bay all the time, out for a year. Today was one of the
I know it.
I have ever seen. I got up, surfed middles early, surfed a day later. You could see everything, whatever was there. I mean, I'd rather be there looking at dead whatever it is than anywhere else in the world.
And he's alive.
Yeah, and secondly, you know, like if you don't know what causes it, you don't know how to solve it. You're like, yo, what am I going to do about it?
You know what everyone can do, Craig? Great deal. And let me just say one last thing really quick. Everyone really can do something really, everyone here, important. Call your local politicians and say, what are you guys doing about what's been documented, the worst coral disease anywhere in the world, to help out with this project? Come on, we pay tax dollars. Let's fund a study to help out. Number two, if you want, call me and I'll teach you how to snorkel, scuba dive, and document the disease so you can help me document where it is. Number three, you could buy any kind of product for fun to give away to your kids. That money goes to the disease study. We have a 501c3 where you can donate $1 trillion if you want to for a tax write-off. Seriously, it's all up on, my cards are right there. But what Uncle Craig is saying back there, right there, we have a very beautiful place we live in here. I still firmly believe 95% of everything out here is pristine and beautiful, and we better be out there enjoying it like I get to do when I go surf Craig. So don't let anybody think that what we're presenting here, it's only about 5% of what's going on, okay? But we don't want it to go to 10% or 20 or 30%, okay? That's why we're doing the education right now. And I'm out there surfing and diving with Craig every day. So I'm, you know, if I thought I was going to get killed doing that, I wouldn't be out there. Yeah.
Terry, I would love it if you would come back in 90 to 120 days and give us all an update.
Yeah, I had a dream I'm going to live to be 103, so you got a lot of time. Yeah, no, I would like to do ongoing reports.
Terry, has the Coral Reef Alliance or any other entities that provide research funds for these projects been contacted?
Yes, actually they have. And the cool thing is, the Ocean Defenders Program in Maui have offered to fund the research here. They're meeting with me in about 3 weeks. We have had a number of really big oceanographic groups highly interested in offering to help here. And so the next 60 days should probably really tell us a lot about that. The really problem is, though, is the last 20, or not 20 years, the last 8 or 10 years, most of the nonprofit environmental groups have been defunded. So it's been hard getting money from folks. But yes, a couple of them have, and they have. And I'll give you updates. Raj?
Yeah, I just want to say there's a sign-up sheet going, passing around. We have a newsletter that we put out.
Yeah!
And Terry touched on a lot of subjects that we didn't really get into full depth on. And so if you want to get more information, sign up and we'll contact you. We'll send you...
And the positive one for the kids, by the way, all of us kids, okay, don't you smile, all of us kids, every day I send out a new top fish on my Facebook page. And it's about a new marine creature, cool marine creature. Raj does that. We do that every single day on the Facebook, and it goes to schools all around the country. So you can sign up on our Facebook page. Yeah.
And also let Patrick say.
Which one? Oh, yeah. Hey, I tell you, one of the neatest things in the world is having people in the community that love the ocean help support our reef program. So Patrick's got a cool painting up here, and I want him to explain.
Oh, hi everybody. I'm Patrick Ching, and I learned a lot tonight. It's actually my first time I got to see what's going on with the reef, or start to learn about it, and I do encourage everybody to learn as much as you can about it. I did bring a painting from a show I'm doing on ocean subjects, and I just encourage everybody to donate to those organizations that are fostering awareness on animals, wildlife, reef, and I'll be happy to help you out with a little treat if you do.
Thanks, Patrick. All right, cool. Any other questions? Because we're going to get out of here fast. Yeah.
Is anybody working on an artificial coral that you can replace
Yeah, great question. Actually, we're growing all tons of them in Kaneohe Bay. We actually take, it's pretty easy to grow corals. We just take chicken wire, you know, regular old chicken wire, and we just put it in a mound, and then we put it next to some healthy coral. And the little coral, they're called recruits, the little baby corals. I got a whole video coming out on that. And within about 2 to 3 years, that chicken wire will be covered with corals about that big. Well, chicken wire is just galvanized steel, so it degrades in water over time. We can take that and put it out on the reef out here and mold it on the reef. The corals then attach to the reef and the chicken wire disintegrates. So we're also trying in the lab, is one of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to grow a cyanobacteria resistant coral. See what I mean? So just in case this does wipe out our entire reef system, maybe we can replant it with the resistant coral species. But the key is here. The key is here is not the dying coral. The key is here is what looks like healthy coral. Every bit of it is very unhealthy. So we have a bigger problem here. We could transplant coral all day long and it would still croak another year or two down the road. So we got to find out what's causing the general problem in the area first. But yes, we can do those big time. Yeah, Craig?
I just want to say one quick thing on the Hawaii Ridge project.
Yeah.
Mentioned, if they do it correctly, there is no correct way to do the Hawaii Ridge.
Put it this way. Put it this way. Okay, let me just make one statement on that, and I'm not pro-development or not pro-development. I like to say just the facts, ma'am. Okay. We have a very, very, very stressed Honolulu Bay right now. If anyone, and I said this to Michelle Swartman in her high-rise office in Honolulu, I've met the Omidyars, and I just have said, if you can show me any possible way under God's green earth to tear apart the ridge, tear apart the fish pond, tear apart the riverbank, and not release one bit of mud or toxin into Honolulu Bay, then you're God. I go, because I'm going to be sitting out there on a NOAA boat with the best scientists of the world, and if you put one bit of toxin and one bit of mud on one of my corals, you're going to jail. It's a federal offense to do that against the Endangered Species Act. So if the public does not want to see the project go through, let's do it through really good science and utilizing the Endangered Species Act instead of just running around holding up a sign. That doesn't work very well because they don't pay attention. But yeah, that's the way we could do it. Yeah, and I plan on doing it even just on my own. Yeah. I actually have done this presentation in lots of places. The last time was in the federal building, by the way, in Honolulu. But I am open to give this presentation 3 days a week, anywhere anyone wants me to give the presentation.
I suggest you do it. You get a hold of the Honolulu Property Owners Association.
Yeah, I did the Rotary Club. I've done, you just grab one of my cards here, because I won't remember. It's Underwater to Web, the green card's up here. Anyone wants a presentation, even if it's in someone's front room. I love doing this kind of stuff. I love meeting the community, and I'll be more than happy to do so. Yeah, that'd be an honor. Yeah?
I was wondering that Princeton has got so much huge amount of development lately, and from when I was around here a long time ago, they just had that one little sewer plant right above
Correct.
the fish pond, and right above the river, and right above, everything there. Is all of this overdevelopment funneling all their...
Well, we're going to find that out in a backwards way. I also run a group called Reef Check. Okay, and Reef Check is the biggest underwater group in 80 countries in the United States of America. The United Nations voted us the main underwater research group in the world. And it's called Pollution Point of Contact. What we're doing, you'll see a boat out here pretty soon, all up and down in Eni, everywhere on the outside of the reef. You're going to see us underwater with high-tech equipment testing for chemicals. PCBs, atrazine, nitrates, everything. Now, when we find any of those chemicals, what we do is we go back to shore and find concentration, concentration, concentration. And what we can do then is we find pollution point of contact where it's coming from the land into the sea. So the bottom line is, instead of hypothetically thinking these things are going on, we're just going to get out there and prove them.
Well, as far as I know, there's nowhere else that sewage is going from all these new.
Well, I know. I actually see it in the water because I see it on the dead corals. But the thing is, we got to stop talking about it. We got to start proving it. Because the bottom line is, it is all going to go to court sooner or later. And I've done zillions of courts. I used to teach environmental law, and I've done more court stuff than probably anyone here in the room combined. So we got to have documented scientific proof, and that's the main thing we want. Yeah. Last question. Yeah, I actually found it in the Philippines. We found it in Samoa. We found it in several parts of the world and in Kaneohe Bay, and that's why we're so concerned here. But it's a new DNA strain here. And the North Shore of Kauai is the largest infection of cyanobacteria known in the world. That's why we're trying to study it here so we can understand it everywhere else. And thank you very much for coming.